Welcome friends, this is the chart of a young person who recently moved to Canada on a student visa. His family is known to me. Thus, there was a request to look into his chart. But let me first put this in a KP canvas view so that we have access to all the relevant tables. Now the question regarding these this chart are the usual, usual questions, and those are: will he settle abroad permanently? About the marriage, and whether this is going to be a love marriage, whether it's going to be a inter-race marriage or the intercaste marriage. These days, people are moving from one country to another country, so the inter-race marriages are also becoming very common. So this is one of the requests that I have quite frequently seen coming from various parents about the marriage. And then, of course, the question regarding the career and the finance. Now, I have been pointing out that the birth horoscope reading using the Krishnamurti Paddhati need some new kind of enthusiasm and some new approach as well. See, society has evolved and become very complex since the time of Sri Krishnamurti, and new questions are emerging. Thus, the stereotype way of just pouncing upon the grouping numbers blindly is not enough. You will see some new challenges and perspective as we discuss this chart. So let me first jump to the Rahu Dasha, because as soon as his Rahu Dasha started, he moved to Canada on a student visa, and this happened in 2022. And if we look at the education perspective, the education side in his horoscope, then we have to look at uh, the 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 Venus in his in this horoscope, because the Venus becomes the significator of the fourth and the ninth house for the Aquarius sun. And if you look at Venus, it is untenanted. So it's a strong significator of the fourth and the ninth house. And but apart from this, you will not see much of the focus on the academics or the higher education. And I think the he had some degree of thought, but he's very intelligent, but not formally into much higher studies. You know what I mean. So he got into Canada through the student visa, and now we have to look at the yoga, the KP yoga for a person to move to a foreign country, and we will also look at whether one is going to settle there permanently or not. Now, in many of my videos, I have mentioned the role of the third house and the seventh house. Of course, the 12th house is there. 12th house means a foreign environment, and then the Rahu, which indicates foreign people, a different language or a different culture or a different kind of food. So that's all indicated by Rahu. And this third and seventh house thing, in my some of my videos, I have repeatedly pointed out that not to ignore the third and the seventh house. And Shri KSK has also mentioned about the role of the third and the seventh house regarding the change of residence or moving permanently from one place to the another place. Now, the relationship between the third and the seventh need to be seen in charts of persons who relocate from their birthplace because the parents had a job that demanded frequent change of place. You know, that transfer and posting kind of job. So it would be interesting to have some of these horoscopes where there has been a permanent relocation from the birthplace to some other city. Usually, people in their childhood they move from one place to another place and then they forget about it. And but it would be very interesting to collect some of these charts with reasonably precise time of birth, and then look into the role of the third and the seventh house. Now let's look at each of these houses: the third house, the seventh house, and the 12th house, the Rahu, and try to combine everything together. Now, if you look at his the third house is Mars. So Mars, if you look at the Mars is already in the seventh house, right? So the third house is already has a relationship with the seventh house, and then Mars is in the star of Ketu, which indicates the 12th house. And then let's look at his the seventh house. The seventh house is ruled by the Sun, right? Sun, yeah. And if you look at Sun, then you will find that Sun is in the star of Mars. That's already indicating the seventh and the third house. And if you look at the fourth house, the Venus, so that also has a very strong connection with the seventh house and the third house. So you see, traditionally in KP, the whenever we were trying to look at the question whether a person is going to settle permanently, then our focus used to be on the third house and the ninth house and the 12th house. But in this horoscope, you will not see those factors very active. And you will see the seventh and the third house more active. And apart from that, if you look at some more factors, for example, if you look at the Saturn, which is the lord of the ascendant, and it is also the lord of the 12th house. So, but for every Aquarius ascendant, the Saturn is going to be the lord of the first and the 12th house. So, but Saturn is untenanted. So, when a planet becomes untenanted, then it becomes really eligible to give that result strongly, just by virtue of being the lord of the two houses. Is not enough in KP. There has to be some special reason or some special status, some special privilege. So here you see Saturn is untenanted, and it is also the lord of the first and the 12th house. So and Saturn is also in the star of Ketu, which is strongly indicating the 12th house. So if you put together all these things that we discussed about the third house, the seventh house, and the 10th house, the role of the Saturn. So then you see that there is a very strong, I would say, a yoga in this horoscope about this person moving to some other country. And so when his Rahu period started, then he moved. And you will also see that this Rahu over here indicates the the sixth and the second house. So sixth and the second house also indicates job, right? And that's the right age also. See, when you are interpreting a birth horoscope, always keep an eye on the current age of that person, because many things will happen according to the age of that person. So that's the now he is already 23, 24 years old. So that's the right time to get into some kind of a service or a job, right? So Rahu is, as we can see, that it is very strongly indicating the second and the sixth house. So he got into a job, and he got in actually into a government job. So and all I can see is that sun and moon, these are the planets that they usually indicate the the government job. So that might be the reason why he got into the government job. But this kind of a detailed reading in KP is a little bit tough, and you need to have some kind of a checklist or some kind of a data with you to uh, to be sure and be very confident. And one of the things that you will notice in this chart is the Ketu. You see this Ketu? The Ketu is very strongly indicating the 12th house, the and then it indicates the third house, indicates the ninth house, is also indicates the seventh house, and it also indicates the 10th house. So Ketu needs some special attention in this chart. My own reading is that during Rahu Dasha and Ketu Bhukti, you see, when you move to a different country, they have certain rules about how you are going to become permanent over there. There is a whole process. I don't know about the Canada, but generally you have to move from one status to another until you get your permanent residency. But that's also not a guarantee that you have become a citizen of this that country. So I think during Rahu Dasha Ketu period, that's what it seems to me, that he is going to uh, get his citizenship, and that is a period when he might or it might become very obvious that he is going to settle down permanently in a different country, because the third is also there. If you look at Rahu is not very strongly showing third, and it needs some additional support. Rahu indicates someone going abroad. Rahu is also in the star of Ketu, that also needs some special attention. Rahu is indicating the 12th house, so that's also good. But the support from the Ketu seems to be the right time or the right dashantar when he might get into that status of some kind of citizenship, where he is sure that now he's going to settle down permanently in a foreign country. Now let's look at the marriage. And one of the questions that usually comes these days is about the love marriage. Now, most of the time, I would say the people at the time of Krishnamurti, this used to be a burning question about the love marriage. But these days, a lot of horoscope that I see, by default they get into a love marriage. So if you look at this chart, and let's look at the fifth house and the seventh house. The fifth house indicates the love affair, and the seventh house is the house of a marriage. So you see, there's already a good connection between the fifth house and the seventh house. Sun and Mercury uh, both are in the both are doing a handshake, and Sun has to do something with the fifth house, and Mercury also has to do something with the fifth house. And Mercury is actually very strong because it is untenanted also. Now, being in the eighth house, it does indicate some kind of issue And but I think eventually they are going to get into this person is going to get into a love marriage kind of a situation. And the marriage time I think might be Rahu. We can take Rahu because Rahu Dasha will be active, and Rahu is a good strong significator of the seventh house. And then the Jupiter is also untenanted, so Jupiter is very strong, and it is the owner of the 11th and the second house. So for marriage, it's a very strong, for the Aquarius ascendant, Jupiter is strong. And since it is untenanted, so it becomes all the more eligible to give the result of the second and the 11th house at the same time. So the Rahu Jupiter and then the Saturn period is also good for marriage, and then the Mercury period. So I think Saturn and Mercury. So Rahu, Jupiter, and Saturn, or Rahu, Jupiter, and Mercury. So these are the periods when this person can expect a love marriage to happen. So if you look at these periods, so this is in the December, that's next year, right? So December of 24, and then the Rahu, Jupiter, Mercury is going to be in year 2025. So that's about the marriage. And now let's look at his the finance and the career. So current Dasha Rahu is good, and Rahu is uh, connected with the houses 2 and 6. So Rahu is good. And but if you look at Jupiter period, Jupiter is very good. Prima facie, if you at first glance, it looks that Jupiter is very strong, right? Because Jupiter is indicating the first house, 11th house, and the second house. This is a very strong combination. And on top of it, Jupiter is untenanted, and so it's very strongly indicating the first and the 11th and the second house. So that's very good for the inflow of money, and uh, for good income and all that. But if you look at the sublord, the Mercury is not good. This 8 and 5 combination. So usually this combination indicate that this person is able to make a good amount of money, but eventually the the whole money gets blocked or is wasted, or there is some kind of a loss. So there is not a good saving of this money. And why I'm saying this about the Mercury, because if you look at Mercury, Mercury is also untenanted. So this 8 and 5 combination, that's not a good combination for so far as the accumulation of money is concerned. And Mercury being untenanted is very strongly indicating the 8 and the 5th house. So during the Jupiter period, there is going to be a good accumulation, but eventually I don't think he is going to have a great saving. And now when it comes to the the type of business or service, so now that's a daunting task in KP, and to arrive at what a person is going to do in terms of career and all that, it needs a separate video. But one thing I told this person was that he is definitely going to do international trade. And the reason for this is that the if you look this combination of 7 3 and 7 3 and 10 7 3 and 10, so this combination, 7th house indicates the international trade. So the 7th and the 10th house uh, together indicates a good chance into a foreign trade or the international trade. And third house is usually some kind of agency business or a messenger business. So this combination will definitely get him into and international trade. And so, because all these planets are forming this 7 3 10 because of the Mars, which is a very strong, which is actually the owner of the the 10th house. So I prepared all these notes. I did not mention all these technical reasons, and then gave it to my relatives. And now guess what? Now they have a new set of questions, and this is a longer list. But that's all for this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it.